Alright, so hey guys, welcome to another Warframe video, and today I want to talk a little bit about the build that I've been using on Wisp because I really like it and I think you might enjoy it too. So the build only requires two Forma, where you add a V and a D, though if you plan to go into an Umbral setup later on, I would definitely not add the D and I would choose a different polarity, which would probably be a V. The aura I'm going to be running most of the time is Corrosive Projection, which kind of suits this build because it's more of a supportive setup and it's just a great aura overall, which reduces enemy armor, which is kind of like the biggest defense the enemies have nowadays. It also fits the polarity the frame comes with, which is definitely nice as well, and you can switch it out for other things like Shield Disruption or even Energy Siphon. Though Energy Siphon for this build is not entirely necessary, then for the Exile slot, I'm running one of the new mods, Motor Signal, which gives you 200% double jump strength. And this for me personally works really well with Wisp's passive, where she's invisible while she's in the air. Just bear in mind that this is very much a personal preference. I like it because I don't have to bullet jump to get a lot of air or do any other fancy stuff. I simply double jump and I'm way high up in the air and I'm invisible for a very long time and I can slowly glide down. So you can easily switch it out for a gliding mod like Potassium, or even for one of the Lua mods where you get more strength or range or something like that. Now after that, I have Transient Fortitude that's fully ranked up for a ton of power strength, Blind Rage that's 2 ranks from the top to save on some efficiency, and finally Intensify for 266% power strength. Then I'm running some extra defense, which is mostly a buffer so that I don't instantly die the second I hit the ground and there's like a high level corpus tech nearby in the form of Vitality for a nice chunk of extra health, and I'm also running Steel Fiber for some extra armor. Now this might not look like much because it's only 165 armor, but with the amount of health you're gonna have in the end, this gives you a huge effective health boost. Then I wanted my modes to cover a bigger area, so I'm running Augur Reach as well as Stretch for a nice chunk of extra range, and I decided to top it all off with Rage, which actually works really well with this kind of setup because you're going to be avoiding most damage by staying in the air, but if you're running out of energy you can just land for a little bit, take a bit of damage which will be converted into energy via Rage, and then jump back up again. And here we have the final stats of the build. So when it comes to the reservoirs, they are pretty expensive. Each reservoir will cost you 36.25 energy, but it will have a radius of 8.75 meters, which is quite nice. And even though we don't have a ton of duration, the buffs will still last 21.75 seconds once you leave the area of the reservoirs. The Vitality mode will give everyone 798 extra health, as well as regenerate 79.8 health every second. The Haste mode will multiply everyone's speed by 53% and their fire rate by 79%. And finally, the Shock mode will have a range of 26.25 meters, which is quite substantial. And that's what this build is focused around. Next up is the Willow Wisp ability, which is not that useful with this setup because it's very expensive. It costs 50.75 energy per cast and it only lasts for 2.9 seconds, so you're not going to be using this an awful lot. Though of course you can use it if you want to. Next on the menu we have the Breach Search ability, which is once again very expensive at 72.5 energy per cast, but it covers a very nice area of 26.25 meters. It has a decent blind duration and 11.6 seconds, and it has a pretty juicy 5.32 times damage multiplier. And finally we have the Soul Gate, which is once again very expensive and you won't be able to sustain it for too long because it initially drains 36.25 energy and then it drains 21 energy per second. Though on the other hand, it does do 2660 damage per second and it can reach up to 70 meters. Blimey, that was a lot of information, was it not? So let's take a look at how this build actually works. So overall, since the build is focused on the reservoir ability and providing extra health, health regen, and movement speed, as well as some crowd control with the Shocking Reservoir, it's more of a supportive build, but it's also surprisingly tanky if you can stay in the air most of the time, because even though you have a lot of regen via the reservoir ability, you don't really have enough armor to be face tanking sortie level enemies. Now the way I generally do things is that I will plop down the healing mode as soon as I get into a mission, so I get the extra health and regen before I fully set up with all my flowers, because that's what I call them. They look like potted flowers, so they're flowers. And at that point I am basically unkillable because I have a ton of extra health, I have a ton of extra health regen, I have a ton of extra speed, and everything that comes anywhere near the flowers gets shocked. And then it's basically just a matter of staying in the air if you want defense and sitting on the ground when you want energy. Also, it's really nice if you get the timing down so you can plant flowers in between jumps. So you jump up, you start casting the ability, and just as you hit the ground, you plop down the flower and you jump back up again. It's really not that hard once you get used to it. It's a bit fiddly in the beginning because you also have to switch between the 3 different modes as you're in the air, but you get used to it. Now, unsurprisingly, this setup works much better in missions where you can just bunker down, plant your flowers, and then just sit in your flowers and destroy everything that comes anywhere near them. So things like defense, disruption, mobile defense, survival, interception, that kind of stuff. But it's still usable and sometimes even really useful in other mission types as well. If for example you periodically keep plopping down the haste flower in a capture mission, you and or your team will finish it much faster. So just go ham, play around with it and see what happens. Though once again, this particular setup is just better for things like defense and mobile defense and that kind of stuff, especially defense. And the way I tend to play these kinds of missions is I will put one of the health flowers as well as one of the haste flowers on top of the defense objective and then scatter the shocking flowers all around it so they stun basically anything that tries to get near the defense objective. And when it comes to some of the shorter defense style missions like the new disruption or even mobile defense, I would just plop one of each flower on top of the objective. And that is pretty much it for the video, so I thank you very much for watching. As always guys, I hope you will like this build as much as I do. It is really fun, and I will see you next time. Bye bye!